Out there, boy. Out there, fella. Roll thunder!
The bakers of the new Langendorf bread present the adventures of America's famous fighting cowboy, Red Ryder. Certainly Red Ryder, like all ranchers, has a full week's work most every week on the Painted Valley Ranch. Yet, with the sniff of spring just around the corner, it's hard for America's famous fighting cowboy not to start roaming just a little, with Buckskin and faithful Little Beaver close by his side. Thus, as we join them now, we find them on the trail high above Roaring River, on the bend that sweeps between Sombrero and Sundown.
Well, boys, how do you like it?
Lily's the lady fingers red. From here the little boy's like a painting in a blood. Red! What's that noise? Sounds like a call of a werewolf.
Werewolf? No, Buckskin. That had nothing to do with departed spirits. That, my lad, was a steamboat whistle. See it down there?
Oh, me see 'em. Boat just around bend, but those funny things on side of the boat. Red Ryder. Look like water wheel?
Those are the paddles, Little Beaver. The paddles that drive the boat. That's why she's called a side wheeler.
Side wheeler? Is a side wheeler anything like a sidewinder, Red?
What an imagination. No, old-timer. Although, on the Mississippi, you often find sidewinders wearing silk hats and dealing poker with marked decks.
Me want to know what make funny noise. Woo-hoo! That noise that come from.
Hold it. There's a noise that ought to be familiar to you. Gunshot.
Sounds like home! Where them shots coming from, Red?
Down in the valley, a man and a girl with some cattle. Get a wiggle on. We're going to investigate.
You don't have to tell me. Me know. Get 'em up, Papoose. Get on. Get.
Let's go, Thunder. Let's help that rancher. Roll thunder.
Slap that sideline and rustle coyote. Look at him, cutting out half the herd.
Dad, give me that 6-gun. I'm just the Winchester. I just reloaded it.
Give me that dad blasted thing. Now, that maverick on the chestnut will only hold still. Come, Sonny! Missed him again.
Dad, look. Something's happening. The rustlers are turning around and running.
Well, I'll be. Look at that, will you? A couple of them punchers and an Indian kid. Got between the rustlers and the river, and they're coming, throwing lead like a hailstorm.
Look at them go, will ya, Dad? Gosh, that one cowboy can certainly handle a gun.
That Indian caboose don't do so bad with that little bow and arrow. Come on, Connie. I'll let us finish that gentleman.
Hold it, compadres. Whoa there, Thunder. You folks all right?
I guess we are. All except for my dad's disposition.
Mister, I never saw a more welcome sight than you knocking on that stallion.
Gosh, you scatter those rascals like dried leaves in a windstorm.
If they'd have known there were only 3 of us, we'd probably be signing receipts for 3 harps and halos right about now.
You never mind any hearts. You don't sing too good, nohow.
I can't argue with you, Buckskin. By the way, came up in such a hurry, forgot to introduce ourselves. My name's Ryder. This redskin here is known as Little Beaver, and the old-timer answered to the name of Buckskin Blotted.
I'm Connie Wilson, Mr. Ryder, and this is my dad.
I sure owe you a lot, Ryder. You saved me from...
Suppose we let the things go for the moment, Mr. Wilson, and see if we can't round up your cattle. Another few minutes and they'd have wandered over the next 10 counties. Little Beaver, help Miss Connie on her horse, and let's ride. Now, what was that you were saying about the rustlers, Mr. Wilson?
That's what I told you, Red. There's a half dozen crooked no-goods in Sombrero, I suspect. But suspecting don't prove nothing.
Prove? Dad, you know full well who's behind it. Or, if he wasn't behind it, he'd have his fingers in it somehow or another.
Who's that, Miss Connie?
I know who Connie means, Red. Jeb Hinkle, the cattle broker. We've been selling through him for the last few years until we found out he was practically making his own prices. So this season, we all decided to drive up to the railroad, put our beef on the cattle cars, and ship them ourselves.
And he's the only man who could really benefit from stopping you?
Benefit? It means his entire business.
Rustling, good business for anybody.
A good business, but not a very healthy one. Is there anybody else you suspect, Mr. Wilson?
The way I feel now, I suspect everybody. But Jip Hinkle certainly makes more sense than anybody else.
Isn't there any other way you can get to market besides driving into Sombrero and shipping from there?
I wish there were. There's just that dinky little railroad. And that's all. You see, Mr. Ryder, that river practically shuts the valley off from the rest of the world.
How far is Sombrero from here?
From our ranch, just 7 or 8 miles. Why?
Well, after a heavy meal like the one you just fixed, Miss Connie, a little exercise might come in handy. So I thought we might sort of ride into Sombrero and back. If I happen to run into Jip Hinkle, well, the time won't be wasted, believe me.
Hey, Jip! Jip!
Take it easy there, Polly. What's eating on you?
Nothing on me. But I got a hunch something will be eating on you, and pronto.
What are you talking about?
Remember I told you about a puncher in a red shirt who run us off just as we were about to grab Wilson's cattle?
What about him?
He just rode into town, and I heard him down the block asking some of the boys out in front of the Ace of Hearts Cafe where he could find you, boss. And I got an awful feeling we're in for it. I seen him handle his 6-shooter.
He's handy with his guns, eh? Polly, what do you think happened if someone kind of stepped on that redhead's toes, and then when he yelled, talked back to him?
Will you stop them riddles, boss?
Look, you're gonna get out of here. And when you see him heading this way, you're picking a fight with him. Get that?
I get it, but I sure don't like it. Suppose he recognizes me.
Suppose you shut up and do as you're told. All I want is for that Jasper to start grabbing his gun. That's all. We got a sheriff in this town, and I'm gonna have that redhead in trouble, right up to his gangling neck.
That must be cattle broker's office across the street, Red Ryder.
I guess it is, son. And look, that hot-faced maverick just coming out of it.
Him looked more like Buzzard than Hawk.
In a pinch, either one would be bad enough. Well, maybe this pinch is coming sooner than I expect. He's headed right this way.
Hey, why don't you look where you're going?
I didn't think I had to. You looked as if you knew where you were going.
Yep, you're pretty salty, ain't you?
Not very. Why?
What are you trying to do? Make a joke out of this? It ain't funny to me, redhead.
Maybe that's because you got your sense of humor recorded in Jip Hinkle's name.
Hink, you're on the prowl, ain't you? Well, I'll tell you something, mister. We got an answer for troublemakers around this town.
That's true. What are you doing roaming the streets?
I'll show you,
But isn't this more like what you mean?
Oh, I got something else for you, redhead. That won't. Red Ryder.
Here now, what's going on?
I'll tell you what's going on, Sheriff. I saw the whole thing.
That's very interesting. What were you doing? Watching with the spyglass? You just came out of that door.
That'll be enough of you, mister. What happened, Hinkle?
This redhead knocked this other gent down, and then wasn't satisfied and tried to blow him full of holes.
Draw it first. Did he?
He most certainly did.
Well, you're most certainly a liar.
Yeah? I want an apology right now.
You know how you can get one, don't you? Empty your holster.
Why, you?
See that? Just like light.
I wanted you to see that, Sheriff. I thought maybe it would convince you if I drew first on that other polecat, he'd be at the Undertaker parlors right now.
Well, no. Hinkle said he saw you.
And I called Hinkle a liar. In fact, I'll increase that bid. I'll make it a dyed-in-the-wool, two-faced liar. And, Sheriff, if you're interested in stopping the rustling south of the river, ask Hinkle some questions. And if you don't get the right answers, you better get some additional deputies, because I think this range is going to be blown wide open.
Well, Red really rode into trouble when he rode into that town. He'll be lucky to ride out again with the whole skin. And I wonder how he thinks he can prove Hinkle's connection with the rustling. But that's a question that will be answered as our story goes on.
Hey, Mr. Gilmore, I got a question I bet you can't answer.
What's the question, Bobby?
How far can you walk on a loaf of bread? Give up, do you? Huh?
Well, yes, I give up. How far can I walk on a loaf of Langendorf bread, naturally?
Oh, sure.
Yes, I give up. How far can I walk on a loaf of bread, Langendorf bread, naturally?
Oh, sure. A loaf of Langendorf bread will give you enough energy to walk 25 miles.
Gosh, that's a lot of mileage and a lot of energy.
I'll bet I could walk 25 miles a day, easy.
Do you eat a lot of Langendorf bread every day?
Just about, I'll betcha. Mom says she never saw anything like the way I go through a loaf of Langendorf bread. Of course, the rest of the family eats lots of Langendorf bread, too. But I eat the most, I betcha. And Mom says I can eat all I want, on account of Langendorf bread is so good for me.
You bet it is, Bobby. All those extra fine ingredients that give Langendorf bread that good flavor you like so well help to build strong, healthy bodies. Enjoy it toasted for breakfast. Put Langendorf bread on every table at every meal, and try making lunchbox sandwiches with Langendorf bread. They stay freshly delicious longer. Get a loaf of fresh, flavorful Langendorf bread tomorrow. Double your money back if you don't agree. It's America's finest.
And now, back to Roaring River Renegades, our rootin' tootin' Red Ryder story. Much has happened since we last left Red and his pals. With Red's help, the ranchers safely delivered their cattle to the depot, only to be jumped by Jip Hinkle and his gang, who are now making off with the cattle on a riverboat. But little do they know that Red, Buckskin, and Little Beaver have cooked up a plan of their own. Let's listen.
Well, Polly, how are you enjoying your boat ride?
I'd enjoy a lot more if I didn't have a lot of cattle for my fellow passengers back here.
Well, in another couple of hours, when we get that money from them, you'll be able to afford that presidential suite at the best hotel in town. We certainly put it over on that redhead and his friends, didn't we?
Yep, and didn't even leave a trace behind.
What the dickens? Polly, look, they're at the shore.
Chip, it's them ranchers. Chip, what are we going to do?
Hey, Cap, get this barge out in the middle of the river and open her up.
Chip, suffering cat, do you see what they're up to? Besides throwing legs, they got that little Indian kid shooting flaming arrows. And one of them arrows just landed in the hay. And one of them arrows just landed in that bale of feed. And it's caught fire.
Why those dirty? Captain, I don't care if the boilers blow up. Show some speed.
Come on, Thunder. Keep on swimming. How you doing, Little Beaver?
Papoose swim like champions.
And you shot those flaming arrows like a little champion. Look at that hay burn. Easy now, boys. We've got to catch those ropes that are hanging over the stern and get up on board.
I'm watching. Red.
Okay. Then grab hold and pull.
We pull up now, Red Ryder.
Watch it. We're almost up to the deck. Now!
Chip, look out. It's that redhead. He's getting on board.
Why that interfering?
Don't try to pick up that gun. Duck, Buckskin! And now, Mr. Cattle Broker, we'll just show you what it feels like to be really broken. Broken in, too.
Red! You knocked the sidewide overboard!
Never mind him, old-timer. He's so full of hot air anyhow, he'll float for hours. What we've got to do now is run this boat into the nearest bank and get off these cattle. Once we get them in their pens, we'll have a couple of nice stone pens for these other cattle we just caught.
Well, Red, anytime you want a job bossing my ranch, just say the word.
Don't be silly, Father. Why would a man who sailed a riverboat the way Red did, with all the cattle, can be an admiral in the Navy?
I guess you mean the horse marines, Miss Connie. Anyhow, if there are any medals being handed out, Little Beaver sure ought to get one for marksmanship with that bow and arrow.
Me don't want medal, Red Ryder. Me just happy to find chance one time to help on you.
That's what I'd like to hear. A modest little boy. Just for that, when we get back home, I'm personally going to find you a lot of new arrows.
Well, we'll never get home standing around here. So long, folks.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Get him up, Papoose. Get along.
Back to Native Valley, Scissor Bill.
Pile after 'em, Thunder. Let's go. Roll Thunder.
Listen again next Thursday and every Tuesday and Thursday evening for another adventure of the West that lives forever, starring America's famous fighting cowboy, Red Ryder. The Adventures of Red Ryder are brought to you twice each week by the bakers of the new Lagendorf bread, guaranteed America's finest. The role of Red Ryder is played by Tyler Hodge. Now, till Thursday evening, this is Gabriel Padilla saying good night.